Welcome, Your Excellency. It is a very great honor for us to address you here in the States General of the Netherlands, the democratic heart of our country. As President of the Senate of the Netherlands, I warmly welcome you. Welcome also on behalf of my colleague, Mrs. van Miltenburg, the President of the House of Representatives. And of course, on behalf of all our other colleagues present here today, both from the Senate and the House of Representatives. Well, if you could read all the signs, you could see the difference between House of Representatives and members of the Senate, but that's too much to ask. We are extremely pleased to have you in our midst. I will be brief, as we are all eager to listen to what you would like to convey to us. After your own words, we will have a discussion led by the chair of the Committee on Foreign Affairs of the House of Representatives, Mrs. Eysink, followed by closing remarks by my colleague, Mrs. van Miltenburg. But first, Your Excellency, I would like to take this opportunity to point out some features of our plenary hall. In my eyes, the decorations of this room, made in 1660, between 1660 and 1664, reveal a lot about the Dutch world view. And naturally, this also reflects in the way we look at the world beyond our borders. Let's start with the walls. I invite you to look to the right and to the left. Behind the public galleries, you should be able to get a glimpse of two beautiful paintings. To the left, a painting depicting the Roman god Mars, representing war. On your right, a more brightly colored painting representing peace. War and peace. We all know that a thin line runs between the two. The instability in the Middle East remains a stark reminder of this. Achieving and keeping peace is only possible with continuous and strenuous efforts. It means building mutual trust and requires compromises from both sides. Your Excellency, I also invite you to move your eyes towards the ceiling. As you can see from all corners, foreigners peek into this room. This colorful bunch represents our international trading partners. I think we all agree that strong economic relations are extremely helpful in cementing constructive political relationships. As such, they form a cornerstone of our foreign policy. Then, in the very center of our ceiling, we see children, the future generations. These children remind us parliamentarians of our responsibilities, both at home and in the wider world. After all, diplomacy does not just involve dialogue from one government to the other. Also, parliamentarians can be key in building mutual understanding and in bringing parties together. I can say, and I believe that would be on behalf of all colleagues present here today, that we are most willing to do so for the betterment of all. Your Excellency, once more, a very warm welcome. We look forward to having an open and frank discussion with you. At this point, I would like to give the floor to you, Mr. President.
Madam Speaker of the Senate, Madam Speaker of the House of Representatives, I must say that I believe this is the only parliament where the two houses are presided by two ladies. I feel so reassured by this combination. As you know, I'm not a very young man, but I'm very proud that half of my life, even more than that, I was a member of the parliament. So I feel so much at home, and I feel privileged to be in this house, which is so special, with full of history and beauty and freedom. Thank you for inviting me. Ladies and gentlemen, in the Netherlands, freedom and equality are indivisible. And it is really a privilege to address your great parliament, which is a bastion of freedom and a model of human rights. At home and abroad, it is highly respected. Your democracy is not just the right to be equal, but an equal right to be different. The founder of the Zionist movement, Theodor Herzl, wrote in his journal, and I quote, "I see suddenly a city rising from the plain without mountain, river, or sea. This is The Hague. Evidence that willpower can make cities rise. The Netherlands," he continues, "is an example of what people can achieve from the most arid lands." Then, later on, the founder of Israel, David Ben-Gurion, wrote in his journal, "The Dutch Delta work is the greatest human endeavor in our time." Distinguished delegates, the real question in the Middle East today is how to divorce from the old age and embrace the new one. Poverty, hunger, thirst, skepticism are remnants of the long-gone era. Only a science-based economy is capable of escaping poverty. Respect the old and sanctify the new, advised wisely our Rabbi Cook. It enabled Israel to overcome poverty. I believe that our neighbors can do likewise. Of the three dangers that threaten the Middle East, war, terror, hunger, poverty today looms over all of the others. Poverty claims more victims today than the swords of yesterday. Historically, wars were caused mainly by territorial disputes. Today, science is more important than land. Armies cannot conquer science, so war has lost its reason. Today, terrorism is made of small groups. They tear to pieces their own lands. Terror lacks an economic proposal, is short of common policy. Terrorists are divided among themselves and fight one another. They replaced policies with violence. They divided the Palestinian people. They devastated Lebanon. They shattered Iraq, Syria, Yemen, Libya. They move like a dark cloud over the skies of more and more people. Traditional foreign aid cannot meet the growing scope of poverty today, because the population of the Middle East grew 5 times in the last 50 years. The donors some of them facing economic crises, cannot meet the growing demands. By the way, Netherlands is one of the most outstanding donors to the poor and needed people. Ladies and gentlemen, the fate of the Middle East depends today upon its entering the age of science. So to overcome the catastrophes of the past that brought the shortage of food and the lack of freedom, we have to turn to the opportunities of the new age. Israel is a typical Middle Eastern land, mostly deserts and constant drought. Science enabled us to improve the land and overcome the droughts. It can be done, not just by us, but everybody else. I believe it's possible for them and needed by them. While events make headlines, developments make history. The current event in the Middle East makes pessimism a headline. But the parallel developments offer hope. And among those developments, I would refer to at least three. Firstly, among the 350 million inhabitants of the Middle East, Arabs, 100 million of them already have access to internet. In my judgment, this is a real development. Secondly, over 60% of the Arab population are below the age of 26. It is them who will raise, as they did raise, the call for an Arab Spring. They were right, but unfortunately disorganized. Yet they remain the majority, and they will continue to fight for their freedom and well-being. It is estimated that in the next year, the number of connected people in the Middle East will double even. The digital age may serve as their organizer. The elder people are no longer a majority. Furthermore, they do not propose an alternative, a real alternative. To be digital or not makes today the difference. Thirdly, the protests in the streets brought an end to some of the dictators in our area. To the others, the future is no longer assured or promising. The end of dictatorship raises the chances of democracy. Ladies and gentlemen, a responsible coalition of the peace-seeking countries was formed to prevent Iran from attaining the dangerous nuclear ambitions. President Obama has engaged the United States and together with the European Union and others impose sanctions upon Iran in order to stop from building a nuclear weapon proposal. The coalition preferred rightly to start with diplomacy while the military option remains. The end of the Iranian nuclear threat, as well as the end of Iran being a center of terror, is the right way to keep the world free and secure. The sanctions led so far to the new tone adopted by the Iranians. President Rouhani addressed the United Nations must stand the test of real implementation. Today it is just a declaration. It is a part of a rhetoric competition. Furthermore, the realities of today in Iran are in stark contradiction to his impressive address. The construction of nuclear bomb is a fact, not a phrase. The building of long-range missiles capable of carrying nuclear warheads continues. It is a danger to the entire world. Nobody on earth threatens the Iranian existence. Meanwhile, Iran is building a nuclear bomb, spreading terror and threatening other people, and remaining a menace to the entire humanity. Historically, the Jewish people knew friendship with Iran. The Iranian threat began only when Khomeini took power. It is up to his successors to bring an end to this unnecessary threat and policy. President Rouhani wants the sanctions to be reduced right away so to ease the economic heavy crisis which now takes place in Iran. Actually, Iran herself can improve her economy by ending the waste of money which is spent on building military nuclear reactors and military nuclear long-range missiles. They don't need the permission of anybody, and can immediately improve their economy. Then we have the Syrian agreement to dismantle their chemical arsenal. It was done only after Syria was threatened militarily. Before that, they denied that they have it. Humanity has no right to forget the loss of life of thousands of Syrians, innocent civilians, young children, were murdered on their own land at the hands of their own leader. It is time for Assad to understand that the world has moral boundaries, not just geographical borders. He crossed all of them. History has ups and downs. The Jewish people experience the heights of friendship and, alas, the abyss of Holocaust. Many of us found in the Netherlands a shelter and a home. Anne Frank described the darkness of the Shoah in a very unique way. I quote her. I see 8 of us in the annex as we were a patch in the blue sky, surrounded by menacing black clouds. We are surrounded by darkness and danger in our desperate search for a way out. 6 million of our brothers and sisters, among them 1.5 million who were younger than Anne, were murdered by the Nazis in cold blood, by gas, rifles, starvation on the European soil. Of the 140,000 Jewish people who lived in the Netherlands, 100,000 were murdered by Nazi industry of death. Local collaborators aided them. Others stood aside. Yet 5,000 Dutch heroes endangered their life and the lives of their families to save Jews. Their courage saved many Jewish lives and kept the honor of the Netherlands. We shall never forget them. The Shoah is both a burning reminder in our hearts and a warning to humanity for the future. While never forgetting the past, we have to look to the future, to the new Netherlands to the new Europe. They are a real departure from the past. The United Europe divorced the 1,000 years of blind hostility. It has invited rays of togetherness and friendship. Borders are no longer dams. Bridges of science replace them and open the ports to the new age. A global age which doesn't allow racism. The Netherlands of today is a land of light. Darkness has gone. The Netherlands became a builder of the new Europe. The new Netherlands has become a moving friend of Israel. Thank you. The Netherlands, like Israel, sees its destiny in a biblical touch, calling what we call in Hebrew tikkun olam, which means bettering the world. Values outweigh expediencies. Our relations are close and friendly. The economic cooperation is constantly increasing. Cultural exchanges brought books and arts. Scientific collaboration offered a great potential for the two of us. The Dutch contribution to the peace process in the Middle East is valuable and meaningful. Yesterday, today, and may I say tomorrow as well. The new age reached new heights. The sky is no longer the limit. The past became archaeological. The present is dwindling. The future offers promise. Our young generation resides already the world of tomorrow. They are constructing a world of their own. They have the right to do so. There is no better match than young people and a new age. Friends, Israel rose out of the ashes of the Holocaust. It had overcome the hardship of war, made a barren desert flourish. Israel is rich in holiness, but poor in natural resources. We were blessed with a rich history, but cursed with a meager geography. At the time of our dreams, it seemed surreal and absurd. Nobody believed that Israel will become, at the time, a reality. Yet, the present reality exceeds the past dreams. Maybe we should have had the courage to dream greater. You know, when I think about it, we are mistaken in the size of our dreams, not in the importance of their implementation. We should dream. We should have the courage to dream great and strong and high. The potential of science, with the devotion of the pioneers, converted smallness into greatness, compensating past shortages with new resources. We created a democratic society, free, pluralistic, varied. Today our great dream is peace. Nothing is more important and urgent with our neighbors. We extend our hands in peace to the entire region. In the 65 years of Israel, we went through 7 wars. No other country had the same experience. We were outmanned, we were outgunned, we lost some of our best children. We miss them. But never in Israel did a day of war postpone a day of freedom. Never did a war weaken our search for peace. Had we been unable to fend our off wars, we would have ceased to exist. There was nothing in between. Either win and live, or lose and disappear. Would we give up our search for peace, we would betray our moral heritage, which is very dear in our minds and hearts. In spite of this hostility, we made peace with two of our important neighbors, Egypt and Jordan. Once we made peace, we gave them back all the land, all the water, all the assets. We didn't keep anything for ourselves. Then those peace agreements withstood the storms of our vicinity to this very day. Now we renewed the negotiations of peace with our Palestinian neighbors, with the help of Secretary Kerry, with the support of the United Europe and the United States. I believe it is possible. I believe it's realistic. I believe it should be done as soon as possible. All of us agree to base the peace. All of us, I mean Arabs and Israelis, actually the whole world, that the two-state solution is the right one. Namely, a Jewish state, Israel, and an Arab state, Palestine, living side by side in peace, in respect and security. The European Union and the Netherlands in particular were and remain very supportive, playing a meaningful role in making peace a reality. Peace was described very nicely by Spinoza, who said, "Peace is not mere absence of war, but a virtue that springs from a state of mind, a disposition from the benevolence, confidence, justice." Dear friends, Secretary Kerry asked the European Union to suspend the recent new guidelines so as to free the negotiations from added burden. When peace will be completed, and it may happen quite soon, those guidelines anyway will become unnecessary. I believe that the answer of Europe to the request of the Secretary will be answered positively to make really the peace negotiation flow uninterruptedly. I believe it will be unnecessary in a very short while. In this, the case, there is no need for interim solutions. We shall make peace, and there is no reason for half measures. You know, to cross a chasm is safer to do in one brave step. Two steps are very dangerous. Then you have to cross a chasm. From Jerusalem, I carry the prayers of our people for the well-being of King Willem Alexander and Queen Maxima. I witnessed His Majesty's devotion to peace when he presided, he was then a prince, over the trilateral committee of Israelis, Jordanians, and Palestinians to make water flow peacefully and efficiently. I happen to represent Israel, so I watch with admiration the way he ran this committee. And the results of it are still evident today. King Willem Alexander is the youngest king in Europe. As we know, the future belongs to the youngest. My age permits me to declare it with authority. France, Israel, and the Netherlands are on a journey to a meadow of tulips, moving together to our promised land and make our lands a real promise for posterity. On the horizon still hangs the great vision of Isaiah for a world free of wars, and the great vision of another prophet, Amos, for a just society for all. Our record provides us with a license to keep on dreaming. Because the yesterday dreams gave birth to the today miracles. You are a miracle by making land from water, and we follow you as a miracle by making land from desert. What was considered impossible wind up as a reality. Our age is facing dangers and difficulties, but it also has a clear call for hope. I do believe hope will win. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. President, for your speech. I now give the floor to Mrs. Eising to preside over the discussion with the members of Parliament. Thank you very much.